So, let me tell you something that happened to me today. My mother sent me this image with an accompanying video explaining that our words and emotions can influence the physical world around us. So, as a scientifically and skeptically minded person, I felt it necessary to glance at some of the scientific counter-arguments. However, I found YouTube seemed to be lacking in good evidence-based counter-videos, so I've decided to bear the burden myself. And that's what we're doing today. In this video, I shall go through Mr. Masaru Emoto's research and look at some scientific papers and maybe even do a little experiment. So, without further ado, let's get started. First up, Mr. Emoto. Born 1943 in Yokohama, Japan, he went on to study political science with an emphasis on international relations at the municipal university there. Afterwards, he went on to work for Japan's largest conservative newspapers, Yomiuri Shimbun. He also founded a medical company selling a machine for quantum resonance spectrometry. He called it the magnetic resonance analyzer or the vibrationometer. But that's a whole other can of worms that does not really warrant opening right now. Anyway, in the 90s he started his work with water. In 1992 he became a doctor of alternative medicines at the Open International University for Alternative Medicine in India. Well, that university sold fraudulent degrees and subsequently got shut down for it. At least that's what they say on Wikipedia about him. And I do not care enough about this part to check it more thoroughly. Theories. His 2004 book, The Hidden Messages in Water, was a New York Times bestseller, and proposed that water would be affected by negative and positive affirmations, or energies, and even prayer. His books, starting in 1999 with Messages from Water, claimed that water was a foundational element of reality and that energies and vibrations could affect its molecular structure. This should affect how the water freezes/crystallizes. Saying phrases like "I love you" and other positive affirmations would cause the water to freeze in pretty and orderly formations. However, if you were to introduce bad energy or negative affirmations, the water would freeze in ugly and chaotic patterns. He also proposed that natural water from mountain streams would freeze in nice and geometrical patterns, when water from polluted sources would freeze into random and ugly patterns. This is stated as such in the prologue to his book.
We next took photographs of crystals. The crystals made with water from the lake before the incantation were distorted, and look like the faces of someone in great pain. But the crystals from the water taken after the incantation were complete and grand.
It cites the work of old German homeopathists like Samuel Hahnemann and relates it to the work of Jacques Benveniste, the French immunologist who first came up with the theory of water memory. He was an actual scientist as far as I can research, and his research focused on the reactions of histamine. But in the 80s he developed an interest in homeopathy and sought to update the theory of dilution to the 20th century standards of research.
When human polymorphonuclear basophils, the type of white blood cell with antibodies of the immunoglobulin E, IgE, type on its surface are exposed to anti-IgE antibodies, they release histamine from their intracellular granules and change their staining properties. The latter can be demonstrated at dilutions of anti-IgE that range from 1 × 1012 to 1 × 10,120. Over that range, there are successive peaks of degranulation from 40 to 60% of the basophils, despite the calculated absence of any anti-IgE molecules at the highest dilutions. Since dilutions need to be accompanied by vigorous shaking for the effects to be observed, transmission of the biological information could be related to the molecular organization of water.
Water is foundational to life and existence. Humans are like 70% water, you know? So this mystic memory of water can influence us. And how we feel and how we act, that's definitely because the water is moody. Well, not really, but he thought something similar. And that is what we feel comes from the water in us resonating with all the other water in the world for some reason.
The average human body is 70% water. When we are born, we are 90% water, and by the time we reach adulthood, we are down to 70%. If we die of old age, we will probably be about 50% water. In other words, throughout our lives, we exist mostly as water. First, I realized that this connection to water applies to all people. Therefore, what I'm about to say applies to everyone all over the world. So, how can people live happily and healthy lives? The answer is to purify the water that makes up 70% of your body.
Yes, now that we have considered what he has put on the table, let's see what his opposition thinks. He is labeled a pseudoscientist after all, so what do his critics think? A prominent biochemist at the University of Cork wrote a rebuttal to Emoto's work on water in the Irish Times. William Reville, I hope I pronounced this right, is a tenured professor with many citations to his papers on biochemical topics, very qualified. Here is his statement on the water thing.
Water is a very special chemical. All biomechanical reactions in the biological cell, the unit of life, take place in water. The second chapter in most biochemistry textbooks is devoted to water. The smallest portion of water that can exist is the molecule of water. As water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, the molecules line up in a regular array, under the influence of the mutual attraction of the opposite charges to form crystals. This lining up process means that a given number of water molecules take up more space in the solid phase than they do when slipping and sliding over each other in the liquid phase. Ice is, therefore, less dense than liquid water and floats on liquid water. Consequently, open bodies of water freeze from the top down as they cool.
It feels very rudimentary, right? Like, people know how water freezes, right? However, with the understanding of water freezing, Professor Reville seems unconvinced by the conclusions that Mr. Emoto drew from the water crystals that he has observed.
It is very unlikely that there is any relation behind Emoto's claims. A triple-blind study of these claims failed to show any effect. Also, the phenomenon he describes has never been published in a peer-reviewed science journal, which almost certainly means that the effect cannot be demonstrated under controlled conditions. Many factors in the work described by Emoto do not appear to be well controlled. Ice crystal formation is known to be affected by many factors, such as rate of cooling. Also, the photographers of the crystals are told to pick the most pleasing looking, strongly raising the possibility of subjectively affecting the results.
Yes, I do have to agree with him. The scientific rigor is clearly lacking in how Mr. Emoto conducts his research. It seems that Mr. Emoto took the conclusion of water reflecting energies and affirmations that he read from Benaviste and then worked backwards to arrive at the conclusion he wanted. On top of that, I find his previous antics and background don't really lend him any credibility. He studied, like me, political science. That in and of itself doesn't disqualify him from speaking on the topic of biochemistry, but it also doesn't lend him any additional qualifications. And the way he seems to disregard much of the existing science seems very malicious after taking his background into account. Yes, even our good friend, the actual professor,
Lecky, you're a poser.
William Reville, has noted this in his article.
Emoto was born in Yokohama in 1943. He is not a scientist. He studied international relations at Yokohama Municipal University, and in 1992 was certified as a doctor of alternative medicine by the Indian Board of Alternative Medicine. I have no reason to doubt Emoto's sincerity, but his work bears many hallmarks of a pseudoscience. The phenomenon is based on claims made by a charismatic leader and is described by an amalgam of science and mumbo-jumbo. There is no credible hypothesis as to causation, no development of the idea, no fruitfulness in the concept, and above all, no clear scientific demonstration.
Yeah, it all just seems like he wants to sell you stuff. So I took it onto myself to replicate one of his experiments. Not the water one, but the rice one. In this one, Emoto claims that 2 jars of rice, cooked and left out to dry, spoil at different times based on the energies that the rice is subjected to. So, to isolate the variables, I took 2 jars, disinfected them and filled them up with cooked rice, left them out in the guest room for a week to see which one spoils first. I labeled 1 jar with an angry face and 1 jar with a happy face. Mr. Emoto presumes that this would be enough to be able to determine which one spoils first, but to make really sure, I showered this rice with affection for an entire week.
Another evening I'll be sitting reading in between your lines, because I miss you all the time. So get away, another way to feel what you did all yourself to know and let yourself.
I complimented it, sang songs to it, took it out on dates, and even confessed my love to it. We had such a lovely time together, and after a week I felt a strong bond between me and the happy jar. I've named it Hope. This does not compare to how I've treated the bad jar. I've named it Angus. For 1 week, it was my mission to drag this rice to the dark side. Verbal abuse in every language I know, listening to evil music like heavy metal and other stuff. Boof it up with him, watching violent movies, inciting revolution. So here's some highlights, recreated dramatically for your viewing pleasure. How did it turn out? Well, let's see.
Yeah, if I were starving and it was the only food left on Earth, I would not fucking eat it. I would throw it away.
Yeah, that's fucking bullshit. Fuck rice. Fuck you. Fuck specifically this rice.
Deserves to be in the back of the closet forever. It's gonna stay with all of the sauces from HelloFresh that didn't get used up.
Put in the fridge and never take it out again. I don't want to see his face.
I mean, you can be a little bit meaner, come on.
That's
That's a shit, you fucking cunt bag. Asshole.
Yeah, fuck you, rice.
Yeah, fuck that rice.
Well, day 1 started a little haphazardly, as I kinda decided to do the experiment on a whim. I was nonetheless determined to see this through. First thing I did before even cooking the rice was to sanitize the jars. I wanted to make sure no stray bacteria would mess with my results. I jarred the rice while it was still scalding hot, again to avoid any contamination of my samples. From here on, I picked out some fitting stickers. Emoto said that even the depictions on the jars was having an effect on them, so I picked these. Perfect. Right as they cooled down a little, I decided to inject the energies. I talked to the rice for a few minutes, and even listened to some music with them. John Lennon and Cat Stevens with a good jar, and some Sabaton and Rammstein with a bad jar. Thus started the week. Days 2 and 4 were a bit unremarkable. I just talked to them. Well, I did develop an earworm, so I decided to show some of the more deranged tunes to my bad jar. The rice still seemed fresh at this point, although there was clearly stuff happening in the good jar. Day 5, I noticed that the good jar rice was clearly turning a little yellow. Have I neglected my boy? This needed to be remedied immediately. I took him with me and we went on a little date to the ocean. Maybe giving him all the love in my heart would have him unspoil? Nope. On day 6, I decided to have a little photo shoot with my jars, and of course I talked to them. Nothing special. Day 7. After this day's little pep talk, I decided to crack him open and have a smell. This is the results of this study. Okay. Yeah, it's been exactly a week since I jarred these. I disinfected them and everything, so, to eliminate variables. But let's see how they do. Like, bad rice. You can see it's starting to get there. I've been verbally abusing this guy every day. I've been listening to lots and lots of bad music with him. I have some friends of mine abuse this guy. And I've been really, really kind to you, But as you can see, I think this one actually looks a bit worse, I mean, I wouldn't eat either, but all things considered, yeah, I think this one's more rotten for some reason. Also, as you can see, there is no condensation inside of this glass, but inside of this one there is, so there's gotta be like biological processes happening in here. I think I'm gonna let this go for another few days, but conclusion-wise, yeah, I filled this guy with love and he still rejected me. What's wrong with you, buddy? And you fucking weak-ass motherfucker, you bad rice. I mean, still, I wouldn't eat this, but I don't think there's stuff going on in there like this one is. So, yeah, let's open them and see how they smell, shall we? Oh my god, did you hear that? There was an actual pop. Oh my god, that's... Close it up. Oh my god. That smells actually foul. It's not immediately foul, but then it sits in there and... Yeah, I wouldn't eat that. I absolutely wouldn't do that, no. Anyway, let's see how the other rice smells, But there was an actual pop in this. Like, that's insane, okay? Other rice, how do you do? Maybe... also audible pop in this one. Yeah. This is how it looks open now. It doesn't smell good. Again, I wouldn't eat this, but... Oh, actually, I got accidentally something on my mouth while trying to smell it. No, I wouldn't eat that either, but it doesn't smell as foul as the good rice. So even though I've been nothing but insulting this, putting real bad energy, really bad jujus into this one, and only good jujus into this one, yeah, the smell's very different. And from smell alone, I can certify that, you know what, if you want to have your rice keep longer, insult it. Don't be nice to it. Though I feel like however it turned out, it wouldn't have mattered much, In the chapter The World Will Change, but in a Moment, Emoto says,
everything in the world is linked. Whatever you're doing now is being done by someone else at the same time. Whenever you sit in front of water and send out messages of love and gratitude, somewhere in the world, someone is being filled with love and gratitude. You don't need to go anywhere. The water right in front of you is linked to all water in the world. The water you're looking at will resonate with the water everywhere.
See? The rice spoiled the way it did because of that energy negatively resonating within the world, so my model still works. This is just the epiphany of anti-intellectualism and reeks of quackery. Let's look at the picture from the beginning again. I bet most people will find something wrong with it. Like how sound waves can interact with particles and this has an effect. Just like how the double slit experiment is often misunderstood as proof for simulation theory. And what makes crystals pretty and some ugly? Very subjective. I'm pretty sure that some of these pics are not even of frozen water, or that they were made at the same magnification as the others. But hey, if you find a way to rationally dismantle the argument, then please tell me in the comments. And please leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed my content. I do put effort into this. Thank you.
Alright there.